Part 3. According to the BBC, under Genomes Document Ancient Mass Migration to Europe, March 2nd, 2015. Perceptual context. The scriptures dictate, not the baptizer scribe, but the scriptures dictates. The Gentiles were scattered throughout the earth by the children of Adam and Eve. And seeing Adam and Eve's seed were living on one circuit of the earth, what we will be reading is a sudden push, in this case, the Sea Armada's push into Europe after they took over the Amorites' land. Check it out. Quote, data from the genomes of 69 ancient individuals suggests that herders moved en masse, from the continent's eastern periphery into Central Europe. Stop. This is where understanding the nations are devoid of it comes into play. What I mean is, when they say words like mass migration, the Triple C's understand they don't realize they are describing the netherworld invasion. And unlike Adam and Eve's seed, Semitic and Indo-European are the languages they spoke. Let's continue for more clues, shall we? Quote, they used a new DNA-enriched technique that greatly reduces the amount of sequencing needed to obtain genome-wide data. Their analysis showed that 7 to 8,000 years ago, a closely related group of early farmers moved into Europe from the Near East, confirming the findings of previous studies. Closely related group, huh? Bingo! Quote, the farmers were distinct from the indigenous hunter-gatherers they encountered as they spread around the continent. Eventually, the two groups mixed so that by 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, the farmer's genetic signature had become melded with that of the indigenous Europeans. Stop! Bingo! Operation Meld complete. Never mind the specific dates. Pay close attention to the sequence of events in the not-so-distant past. A distinctly different pathogen infected the Gentiles that were scattered. Those of the pure-blood elite downloaded their DNA sequence into their conquered chicks and killed off all the males, a strategy the original Vikings are famous for, mind you. But wait! Here's where our more recent Hun discoveries, or at least their original DNA copy, comes into play. Let's continue. Quote, but previous studies show that a two-way amalgam, which is an algorithm, of farmer and hunters is not sufficient to capture the genetic complexity of modern Europeans. A third ancestral group must have been added to the melting pot more recently. Professor Wright and colleagues have now identified a likely source area for this later diaspora. The Bronze Age Yamnaya pastorals of southern Russia are a good fit for the missing third genetic component in Europeans. Stop! Bingo! Why bingo, you ponder? Well, didn't we discover in our Hun series the original stock of the Manchu tribe, the tribe that is responsible for the Chinese Empire and progenitors of the Huns, were from, what did they say, little Miss Ivy? That's right, southern Russia. Yes, we did. And didn't we discover the Y chromosome of the Huns was coursing through the veins of the mass majority of the men in Europe? Yes, we did. That can only mean the DNA Y chromosome sequence we just discovered from the Bronze Age is a direct match / overlays the Huns' Y chromosome sequence. And that can only mean they come from the same master copy, 1,000 years removed, but of the exact same elite bloodline. What are the odds that happened naturally, I ask? But let's continue for more clues if you don't believe me. Oh yeah, again, we must look at what they conclude through their wayward perceptions. and plug the evidence into a triple C perception. Check out what they blabber next. Quote, the scientists contend that a group similar to the Namnaya, Yamnaya, moved into the European heartland after the invention of wheeled vehicles, contributing up to 50% of ancestry in some modern northern Europeans. Stop. Remember, this is even before the Huns came on the scene 1,000 years later. This can only mean netherworld amalgamation invasion. Notice, it says, quote, a group similar to the later dated Namnaya downloaded their virus into over 50% of all the Europeans all the way back then. Wow. Question. Would you like to investigate who was doing all of this invading? Migrating? Well, now that that's little Miss Ivy and I, are ascending out of the pits of Hades, we done laid some truth bombs all over the place. It's time to retrace our steps to put mortar into the gaps of our overall theories. To start this journey, all we must do is continue down the path we already started. Check it out. According to Wikipedia under Middle Bronze Age Migration, Ancient Near East. Quote, while the turmoils that separate the Late Bronze Age from the Early Iron Age are well documented, theories of migration during the Middle Bronze Age have little direct support. It's because it wasn't a migration, dummies. It was another world invasion. Quote, some suggestions connect these alleged mass migrations with the coming of the Greeks, moving from their former settlements into the southern and central Balkans, displacing the former pre-Greek inhabitants of Greece. Others make reference to a supposed migration of the Hittites to their earliest known home in Kaptupe during the same period. Stop. As we will prove in a minute or so, this is exactly what happened. Notice, to say, quote, supposed migration of the Hittites to their earliest known home can only mean the Hittites came from out of the earth and invaded their very first homeland. But like I said before, we're going to prove this a little later. But I want you to listen to them give us the correct theory and then turn right around and unsuccessfully try to disprove their very own theory. I say unsuccessfully because they don't have the perception the Hittites were a group of diversified nations who attacked nations together and simply waited on their turn to be given a homeland. With that understanding, this makes perfect sense. Quote, however, newer evidence and theories contradict the notion of a migration of the Hittites, suggesting that a Proto-Indo-Hittite language dates back to the 4th to 8th millennium BC. Of course it does, dummies. They were all going under one banner. They spoke all the languages. Didn't the people tell you about Tiglath-Pileser's army? Didn't they tell you it was multicultural? But let's continue. Quote, this migration theory is also contested by recent genetic research, which revealed that the ancestors of both Mycenaeans and Minoan populations migrated from Anatolia thousands of years before the Bronze Age, thus disproving the theory that Mycenaean Greeks were a foreign group to the Aegean, as well as unrelated to the Minoans. Stop. Now, I understood what this said, and it doesn't prove what they're saying whatsoever. If they understood the scattering of the Gentiles and the iniquity of the Amorites and the overlapping outside invasion of the netherworld. In fact, it makes perfect sense, and anything else would be a problem. They are proving the scriptures without even knowing it. Notice, they admit the Hittite invasion happened at the exact same time, but because they are a nation that are not a nation and a people that are not a people, devoid of wisdom and understanding, they cannot connect the simple dots. And to prove everything I just said is true to the gospel, let's continue, shall we? Listen up and listen closely. Listen up and listen closely. This is what started the chain reaction in the Bronze Age in the first place.